I have been handed the torch and I have got to thrive because I have generations underneath me that are watching, and I have really got to show them that you have to have a no failure concept.
When it's your passion, you have to anticipate that people will not be on board to the degree you would expect them to be on board.
Let your ego go, let it go, and just learn. It's a lifelong decision. It's not, I'm going to act, direct, and write. This is a lifelong decision. And you got to learn every single day.
You'd have to know if a person is serious about being successful or if it's a front and they're afraid of success.
It's worth it. Like, the work and the sacrifice is worth it, that I get to say exactly what I want to say all the time. And that is so important to me.
Yeah.
Be able to express myself.
I'm a writer, creator, producer, director, author, and community champion. But that's not how the story started. I faced rejections more times than I could count and found support in the most surprising places. Scrap paper is where I make sense of it all. The scraps, the stories, and the strength behind the journey.
Drew, welcome to Scrap Paper. So excited to have you. Just legend in the building.
Thank you, Nat.
Yeah. The first thing that I have to ask you before we even do anything else. So I call you Drew.
Yes.
But your stage name, your professional name is Dr. Butcher. And it seems so counter to your amazing, kind personality. This seems like rough, Dr. Butcher. That's tough.
Well, I didn't make up the name. So what happened was Kool G Rap was, at the time, everyone had two DJs, kind of a basic DJ and someone who really was like a showman on stage. And he had Polo. Polo is just a cool neighborhood cat. He was my mentor, good guy. He had the connection that put G Rap on. But G Rap being a rapper that he was, he also wanted that fire behind the turntables, especially seeing Jazzy Jeff and all these other nice turntablists come up. And so he first went to recruit a guy in the neighborhood named Camille. So Camille's parents owned a record store. Camille had a lot of records, and he thought it was a benefit that the guy was pretty good on the turntables and he had an awesome record collection through his parents, that it would give him access to more tracks and beats and things like that. But Camille didn't want to be involved with it. So he and I would hang out every day. We were like the best rappers in the neighborhood. He had no clue I could DJ. And he's telling me what's going on, and I never said anything. And then someone he was dating that was close to me asked him, how come you just don't let Drew be your DJ? And he was like, what are you talking about? She's like, what do you don't know? He DJ. She knows. She would be at the house, but I really didn't tell anyone. So she brought him to the house, and he watched me, and he was like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe you didn't say anything. Hang up the mic. You're going to teach it the turntables from now on. So that night, we went to the studio. Eric B was executive producing his Wanted Dead or Alive album, and he wanted me to show off my skills to Eric B. So took the turntables and everything there, walked in the studio. They had a song playing, Kool was back, and I just started scratching to the record. I didn't think it was being recorded. I was just scratching, but it turns out they recorded me the whole time I started. And so when you play the record, at the very end of the record, you hear scratches just fade up into the song. And that was me just kind of showing off for Eric B. It wasn't meant to be on the record, but they loved it, so they kept it.
And now a brief word from our sponsors.
Scrap Paper is all about exploring new ideas, and so is our sponsor, Epiphany Resources. If you're a leader or entrepreneur looking for clarity, purpose, and resilience, Epiphany Resources can help you turn your ideas into action. Through coaching and speaking, they help people grow beyond their current situation and navigate life's toughest challenges. Visit epiphanyresourcesllc.com to start your journey. Great stories deserve a great stage, and Tad Tavern delivers both. As a sponsor of Scrap Paper, they're more than just a tavern. They're a launch pad for creative voices. Go for the craft food, stay for the live energy, and experience the art of expression at a top-tier venue that feeds the soul. Book your next night out at tadtavern.com, where every bite and every performance hits just right.
And now back to Scrap Paper with Natalie K. Hodge.
Take me back to the beginning though, because you already had a passion for music at this point. You were already invested in it at some level.
Yes.
But what was that first moment where you got your hands on a record and you're like, this is what's going on?
The first moment is hard to say because hip hop, it was like a virus. It just exploded like in a moment. What I do remember, I was probably 8 years old at the time. We moved from Brooklyn to Corona, Queens, and I lived on 102nd Street, in which I was in the middle between the Spanish community and the Black community. So I was in tune with everyone. But when it took off, everyone was a DJ. You can look at the side of a window. You saw everyone in the window with speakers out the window, playing music, scratching. And I was just awed by it. And then the radio, late night radio, WHBI, the Supreme Team, Joe Bloodrock, all these shows started popping up and everybody was just sit up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning listening to the radio just to hear this unique style of music. And I was just like, I have to be a part of it. I had DJs that lived upstairs from me. And at some point in time, Cut Creator, the original Cut Creator, moved across the street from me. My neighbor lived next door to him. Was a crew called the Spin Masters. That was DJ Polo's original crew. And me and the youngest brother were best friends. So when they were playing the parks afterwards, they would put all of the equipment in his living room. And he and I would sneak into the living room and turn everything back on at night and start scratching and DJing and breaking everything. But they were cool with that. So that, and my cousins in Brooklyn, I would go to Brooklyn every weekend. They had turntables. And so it was crazy because, like I said, I was really young and I couldn't afford turntables. My parents weren't willing to invest that at the time because they didn't understand the music, especially my pops. I was breaking his needles left and right. So he was not buying anything. And, but I was heavily into rapping because that was easy to do. You know, you didn't take any money to write lyrics. So, but I was pretty good at it. A friend of mine, AC Vin Events, he got me started with that. He used to write rhymes for everyone, but then I just started writing myself, my own rhymes, and got really good. So my cousin would bring me out to Brooklyn, to Bed-Stuy, Roosevelt Projects, and battle everybody there. So you had this little 9-year-old kid battling everyone there. And it was funny because he took me to a block party once in Divine Sound. The rap group Divine Sounds were from the neighborhood as well, and they were performing. And somehow he got them to let me get on the mic. And I got on and did my thing, you know, I didn't think nothing of it. But later that summer, they released some new records and my verses were in the records. How do these guys know my lyrics? Like, this is crazy. I'm sitting there line for line. I was like, this is wild. And then I realized, wait a minute, because I know the DJ was a big guy. So I realized that that was Divine Sounds. You know, as I thought about it, that was them. But then I realized they talk about how they're from Bed-Stuy, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh man, did these guys steal my lyrics? Because it was common to record the Park Jam, you know, so I don't know. It was just very interesting that the lyrics popped up on their next single.
Stop thief.
Exactly. But I took it from there and I kind of really focused on the lyrics. Like I said, Cut Creative had moved across the street from me. Everyone would always let me get on the turntables, but I was wild and erratic. I didn't have I just wanted to make noise. Friends would sleep. Vinny, my cousin lived downstairs from him. I would just go to their house and walk in the door. They would leave the door unlocked. His whole family, he had 3 brothers and probably 2 sisters or 4 brothers. I would just walk in the house early in the morning. Everybody's dead sleep. 7 o'clock in the morning, here I am looking to turn on the turntables. And they're like, what are you doing here? But that was just my passion. Like, I mean, I would walk past record stores and see pictures of Grandmaster Flash and the Funky Four, and I would stand there for hours just staring at the photos like, oh my God, if I went to Jamaica Avenue and saw the sweatshirts with Grandmaster Flash or Grand Wizard Theodore, Furious 5, I believed that they really came there and had sweatshirts made. So I would just stand there hoping they would come back so I could meet them. But that wasn't the case, you know, it was just the store selling the shirts. So the passion has always been there. And by the time I got to high school, I kind of honed in on my craft a bit. And I had read a story where a rapper from the New Music Seminar, DJ Miz, and I forgot the rapper's name, but he won the seminar and he went to Brooklyn Tech High School, and Cut Creator went to Brooklyn Tech High School. And he was telling the story, the writer sent me an article. He said, hey, could this be you? And it was an article, it was an interview where the guy was saying he came out to Corona, Queens to hang out with Cut Creator, just saw his stuff. So he wanted to try to get on because they had just released I Need a Beat. LL Cool J and Cut Creator had just released that song. So everyone was coming to him to try to get on, to get a record and stuff. So he came out there and was watching them DJ. And he says, yo, this little kid popped up with a big afro. And he grabbed the mic and just started rapping. And he said, me and my man were blown away. He said, I've never heard anyone as nice as this kid. And I think his name is Drew Simbra, but that's all I can remember from it, right? So the guy was like, yo, could this potentially be you? I said, yeah, that was a part of a lyric I had, that if I had my own month, I would call it Drew Simbra, something like that. But that's all he remembered. And he was like, yo, find Drew Simbra. There's this guy out there who's incredible and no one knows it. So, the guy was in Australia. We got a good laugh out of it. Yeah, it was real interesting. So I really started honing in on the lyrics in high school. I met LL Cool J. I met my man Mikey D, introduced me to LL Cool J, and my partner Royal Rich. I got really popular in high school. It was one of the best. I had another guy, my man Romantic Snow. He was older than me. He kind of was like a mentor to me as well. But I got very popular and pretty known as like one of the better dudes out there. So I ran with that for a while, but I still had a strong passion for DJing and no one knew about it. And when I graduated high school and went to college, I don't know, my attention just went to the turntables. I bought my own set and I just kind of hid away from everybody for like a year. And I was just practicing like a madman. I was doing stuff in the studio with Large Professor and G Rap, but I would secretly attend the DJ battles to see where everyone was and to gauge them. And I would go home and kind of craft my own stuff. And then everyone found out that I could do it. And so that was history. It just went on from there. That's all.
Is there a pivotal moment in your mind where you just decided, okay, I love rap. I love that as a part of expression. But now I'm going to open the doors for people to understand my talent as a DJ and a producer. Like, not just I'm there in the mix, but you really leaned into it. What was that point?
I can't say there was. They were always interconnected. I loved rapping and DJing the same. Like, there was no difference for me. So the only difference was I didn't have turntables myself. And so I knew to get good, I needed to buy my own turntables and spend a lot of time practicing. And honestly, I wanted to do it all. Like, I love hip hop from every angle, from graffiti to breakdancing to rapping to DJing. Like, I was just a fiend for everything. So that really didn't matter. It's just at some point in time, the passion just grew, and I just found myself really focused on DJing, and I wasn't thinking of lyrics at that moment at the time. Just like from DJing, I migrated into production. So it's just a passion. I love it all.
Right. I know just from having previous conversations with you that is just a part of the fabric of your being.
Yes.
So share with us a time when something you were working on didn't work out, but then that ultimately led to a success point later on.
Well, success, someone said it to me in a very unique way. I was talking to a guy, another DJ who's popular, my man DJ Eclipse. And I felt like I never had true commercial success. And we were talking about another buddy that we came up with who did. He got lucky and got on a project that sold like 20 million records. And some guys that I taught how to produce got on like 50 Get Rich or Die Trying album, things like that. But I'm happy for the guys. I don't hold any animosity. But I noticed every time we would get to the doorstep where something looks like something big is about to happen, it would just fizzle out. And so, I was talking to him about that, and I was like, it's just all right, but it's just the luck of the draw. And he was like, yeah, but I would take your resume over their resume any day because you stuck it out and like people look at you in a different manner. So maybe the residuals don't match, but your credentials match. Like, your credentials stand out above and beyond most guys out there. So he said, I think I would want to be you more than anyone. And him saying that it's hard for me to think that way because I just don't think that way. But seeing someone from the outside looking at me tell me that, it made total sense.
Yeah, all of the content that I've seen interviews that I've seen where people have talked about working with you, about you mentoring them. Everyone has such an amazing respect for you and your musical genius, the way that you honor people and their talent and their humanity as a part of the process. I think that is spectacular, and there are volumes told about people like you who are in the business, a business that can sometimes be shady.
Yeah, for the most part, yes.
Rise above, and
yes.
And to hold yourself to a higher standard.
And now a brief word from our sponsors.
Ready to roll? Starling Avenue Cards and Comics is your headquarters for game night greatness. From Magic, The Gathering, to D&D and everything in between, they've got the decks, dice, and the know-how to power your next play. They're also proud sponsors of Scrap Paper, where creatives level up through real stories of grit and growth. Starling Avenue, your next adventure awaits you. Every great story needs a director, a guide, someone who helps you define your role and step into it with confidence. That's exactly what Epiphany Resources does. Whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or someone searching for direction, Epiphany Resources helps you find your why and equips you to pursue it. They don't just focus on the details, they focus on you. Learn more at epiphanyresourcesllc.com.
And now back to Scrap Paper with Natalie K. Hodge.
I mean, you have to do that because you never know who's watching you. And I always felt like it was a gift from God, a gift that I didn't have to, or things that I learned wasn't just meant for me to keep. It was meant for me to share with anyone and everyone. And I never felt like if I gave this away, that was the last, I'm never going to receive a gift again. Like it was unlimited for me. I never thought about it whatsoever because I could share one routine or share anything, give music away, and come up with something, within a moment's time. So I didn't have to hoard anything. So I was always open to teaching people and just sharing the gift. That's all it is.
That's an abundance mindset, that's knowing that we are not limited in our capacity. The universe is not limited in its gifts. Talk about some of the other lessons you learned along the way.
One of the biggest lessons I think I've learned working with people and putting a lot of energy into projects that I don't plan to ever repeat is that you'd have to know if a person is serious about being successful or if it's a front and they're afraid of success. Because in many instances, artists I work with that talk a good game, in hindsight, when you look back, they were totally afraid of success. And I understand from touring and traveling, you see what the big stage is like. We've been on the big stage. And you have to be ready to deal with that from all aspects. And it's not just fun and glamour, girls and money and big houses. There's a lot of business, a lot of things, a lot of people hating on you. It's just a lot to the business. And then you realize, am I wasting time, or I did waste a lot of time thinking this person was serious about their career, and it went nowhere, because then at the end of the day, if you don't do anything, then I don't go anywhere. It's like I just wasted a few years producing and nothing goes anywhere. So I've had that happen multiple times. And so nowadays, I'll talk to artists just to fill them out. And I'll even ask that question, are you afraid of success? And I met a guy here, a young rapper named Rakim as well. And when I said it to him, he was like, man, that's very interesting you asked me that because I was afraid of success. He said, I didn't know it until my music got to the radio and people started treating me differently. And I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen? He kind of freaked out a bit and had to get a grip on himself. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, how you engage with people and allow them to manipulate your life because your life becomes a part of their life, so you got to keep that under control.
Aside from someone just being upfront and direct about their fear of success, are there any other things you look out for when you're making that assessment of, are they really ready to do this with me?
Determination. You can tell how fast they react to tracks or when they want to record. Are they waiting for you to do all the work, or are they doing the work as well? You know, you want that person who's ahead of you and coming back, yo, look what I'm doing. Like I'm working with one of the OGs that I mentioned earlier from LL Cool J, Mikey D. And, you know, he replaced Large Professor in the main source at one point. Then kind of went away. He had to deal with some personal issues, but he's back, and we did a song called Over 50, and it was well received. He's getting a lot of support from everyone across the board, even new rappers, the drill rappers. He was telling me in Harlem, all these kids love him to death. He's just a positive guy. So when I send him stuff, he gets to work instantly and sends it back. Or he's out meeting people, attorneys and business people and website people and publicists. You know, we know we have LL Cool J in our back pocket, but we want to do as much as we can before we approach him with anything, you know, and get his support. We know it's there, so we don't have to use it. We'll wait and let him see us working hard, and then he'll step in and help us. We already know how it goes, so that's what I kind of look forward to. It seems some of the younger generation, I don't know, they're all over the place. A lot of kids, I think they see the internet as just a medium and everyone can release music, but that nullifies everything. So it's not about releasing the music, it's what are you going to do with the music? Are you paying a publicist? Are you paying marketers to move your music? Or is it just sitting on Spotify going nowhere? Like, how does it get heard? If you have 1 million kids all around the globe release the music, how does yours stand out? And I don't know if people think through that process, or if they're happy with 1,000 views. Meanwhile, someone else has 10 million to 1 billion views, things like that. So you have to get with those people and those like minds who understand there is a hustle associated with this if you really want to do it. If it's just fun and games, I don't have time for that. I'm not 20 years old anymore where I can just sit around and, you know, let you just be happy that someone's listening to your record. You know, I need to know you're serious about what you're doing.
Right.
It's an investment. It's a time investment, you know, so I'm not going to invest my time if you're not serious about your time. And it's that simple.
So you mentioned hustles. What other hustles have you gotten into over the years, or side projects, other things that you've gotten into? Because I know music is your core passion, that's your heart, but you do other things too.
Yeah, I love animals. I love animals as much as I love music. Like I've always kept any type of fish, saltwater, brackish water, freshwater, reptiles, iguanas, chameleons, just regular lizards. And now that I have 2 kids, I want to kind of introduce my kids to that stuff. So I have a couple of, like 3 bearded dragons, chameleons, and maybe 20 crested geckos.
Your house is a zoo.
But you know what's funny? Like I design cages now, kind of like zoo style. Like that's what I think sparked it. Like nowadays, I found companies that design the cage, the tanks, the fancy stuff in the zoos. And they sell stuff for like for your home aquariums and stuff, or terrariums. And once I saw that, my artistic side fell in place. I was like, I want to do that. So I just started buying all types of enclosures, and then what am I going to put in this? You know, so I got into the crested geckos, and those are pretty fun because they're nocturnal. And they don't really require crickets. You can feed them that, you know, they just require like a nectar juice. And they're quiet, they don't make noise, they don't do anything. So I can create these fancy tanks, they're not gonna mess them up. And it looks nice and scenic. So while I'm working on music, I can have a whole wall of just glass aquariums and terrariums and stuff. And that's like tranquil to me. That just helps my creative flow go.
I'm so glad that is tranquil to you. That is not my idea of fun, but let me tell you, to each their own, you know what I'm saying? I'm glad you love it. If you love it, I love it.
Yeah, it's a great thing. You know, that and martial arts, you know, I work out and I go to martial arts probably 5 or 6 days a week. My boys do as well. So they've been training for like 6 years. They're like 9 and 12, but they've been in class for a minute. Yeah, so they just got obtained the red belts, and I think all this year, probably early next year, they'll be working to acquire the black belts. So they'll be junior black belts.
So who or what holds all of this together for you? Your projects, your life? What is the kind of gelling force in your life? Everything. My kids, I want to, you know, introduce them to as much as I can and be a leader, mentor to them as well as a father. My wife, you know, you're at work, I'm a manager at work, so I have a staff that I have to
be a leader to them as well. You know, they look up to me and, you know, they love me. So work is good. You know, it makes life easy. You know, it's hard, but when you have a good team behind you, it makes things easier because you can work together. And I think all of that just keeps me going. You know, I speak to a lot of older people. My instructor, he's older. And I just listen to the things they say because they just all talk wisdom, you know, just wise words and stuff. And just being active in life is the way to go. Never, you know, just get stale and sit around doing nothing, you know. So he's 76 teaching classes, martial arts, and doing full splits and stuff. I have no reason not to show up to class, you know, with things like that. You see that, that's just inspiring. I remember when I was going to the gym, I would go 4 o'clock in the morning and there would be a crew of older retired guys like in their 60s, approaching 70 in the gym, running up 3 flights of stairs, getting to the bottom, doing handstand push-ups. And I'm looking at these guys like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, and they love to talk to me. And I was like, man, it was like, I want to get you into bodybuilding. And I was like, no, that's not anything I want to do. But, you know, I just want to be fit. But just watching these guys work, it was like, I have no excuse not to be here in the morning working out with these guys, you know, like, and they're older and they do it religiously. So, you know, I see things like that. And I just feel like those are moments God is just talking to me, you know, be careful about this and that. And that's how I live my life. I let God control me. That's all.
Yeah, I love it. Staying in your wisdom bag. Tell me what advice would you give your younger self?
Probably put more time and energy into myself. I think at some point in time, I'm so giving that I would put others before me. And it requires to be in that world of music or just entertainment, period. You have to be somewhat of a narcissist and selfish. So I think it would be finding that fine line, that balance of being a good person as opposed to being a narcissist, but not letting people take advantage of you. And it's a thin line to walk. It's a very difficult line to walk. So I would probably try to correct that and figure that part out. And, you know, I look back, I'm like, okay, I could produce at a high level, DJ at the highest level, I can write at the highest level. You know, I was just as good as Kool G Rap, LL Cool J, you know. They didn't sort me out and hang out with me for you know, just because I was an average person. You know, G Rap would take me everywhere and say, listen to my man. So I think I had just as good as a chance of being successful as any of them, not to mention the additional talents that I had. So Eric B, I had a lot of guys really trying to sign me. Biz Markie wanted to sign me, Eric B. Few people approached me. I just wasn't there. Like, I was learning the business and seeing things, you know, and the street life was involved. It was just kind of weird. So I didn't, you know, I was assessing things and I prefer to stay quiet. So I sat in the background. I could go to the studio doing scratches. I worked with TLC, various people through Steve Stout. Me and Steve Stout were good friends. And he would always call me to work with his artists, anyone he was managing. He's a really great guy. Me and him had a nice relationship. I think that's what it is. I would just kind of focus on myself because even he lost contact with me and I ran into him in front of his office in Manhattan one day and he was like, Butcher, I was looking for you forever. I couldn't find you. And he said, I manage DJ Clue right now. He said, but I wanted that to be you, but I couldn't find you. And I'm sitting there looking like, oh my goodness. But that's how, you know, we were really, really cool. He said, but if there's anything you ever need, this is my office. Just come and knock on the door. And, you know, I'll do anything I can for you. So you try to keep, Nas said the same stuff to me. When he would come to the studio when we was recording Wanted Dead or Alive with G Rap, he didn't have a deal. But he and I would sit down, I would bring books to the studio, the Bible and all these self-help books like Miles Monroe would write. And he was like, man, you got all these thugs in here and you're reading the Bible and all these self-help books? I was like, absolutely. I don't care what they're doing as long as they don't mess with what I'm doing, right? So he found that to be interesting. And he and I would sit there and build all day long. Premier would be in the studio with us. And he would come to my house and hang out. So those guys were like minds. They were from the streets, but nobody liked to be in the streets. You know, it was all about the art. And I think that was the camaraderie that we all shared. You know, and same with meeting a Rob Swift and a DJ Sinister. They didn't know that there was somebody else in the neighborhood who was just as passionate about the turntable as they were. And when they found out, you know, we met, I knew what it was at that time. I was like, yo, come, let's practice together. You know, I'm going to learn from you. You're going to learn from me. and we all gonna get better. Iron sharpens iron. And then we met Rock Raider, Steve D, Sean C. Like everything just came together one moment. My man, DJ E. Kim, everything just came together, you know. And growing up looking at the Disco Twins, who are legendary DJs. I mean, those guys, that was as close as I could get to famous people. And so walking home from school at 11 years old with all my friends, they owned a store. And they had a small tabletop Pac-Man machine in their store. And I was the king of Pac-Man. The first to turn it over in my neighborhood, you couldn't tell me anything. I was like, oh man, they have a Pac-Man machine. Exactly. So I went in there and I just started playing Pac-Man because I could stay on it for hours and not leave. And I just did that so I could see these guys walking to the house and, you know, just get to be around them. And later on, I got to meet them. And when I told them the story, they died laughing. They couldn't believe it that someone, a young kid, was looking up to them in that manner. They had no clue. They didn't notice I was going to this store every day playing Pac-Man. They had no clue whatsoever. But it was funny. But that's why I think you have to be aware of your surroundings, because people are watching you that you don't even know. I mean, I had a guy call me once. He was dating my wife's cousin. And he called me and they got to talking and he got on the phone and he was like, Butcher, I've been looking to contact you for a long time because I finally got saved. And it's like, oh man. He said, yeah, Pastor Bernard at Christian Life Center, which is the church I went to where I got saved. And Joe used to go. We used to go to Bible study and everything there. And I didn't even remember. It was one of those sessions where he came in and he saw me reading the Bible and he said, he just started talking. And I was just talking normal. And he said, man, you left an impression on me that I couldn't believe and I couldn't escape. And so one day, man, I just found myself going to church and I ended up there and I got saved. And I've been just trying to lead a righteous life ever since. And I'll always look for you because I wanted you to know it was you that did that for me. And when you hear stuff like that, I think that's probably more inspiring and self-gratifying than money. Like, you know, money couldn't buy that type of gratification. So I think that's what it's all about. You know, just helping people and being there, being a beacon of light. I think that's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the honor and privilege to spend a little time with former heavyweight boxing champion Oliver McCall and talking to him about his journey. And he said something really powerful at the end of the conversation. And it was that this chapter of his life is going to be the best chapter.
Wow.
So as you imagine this next chapter for you, which I believe will be the best chapter because it's a full circle moment. You have the knowledge, you have the connections, you have the beautiful reputation within the hip hop community. And now you're in a position to be able to move in it in a way that really honors who you are as an individual and to not make any personal sacrifices to that. What do you see as a part of this next chapter?
I leave it to God. Like, I just stay in the moment of being productive and creative. You can pursue things and pursue people, but sometimes I realize that's not always the right path. Even when I was actively producing, there are other producers that would go to clubs and try to rub shoulders with the artists. Things like that, I would never do that. The club is not my scene. Like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, so that's definitely not anything I was looking to do. God would just open doors and you just have to be prepared. So when you're presented with opportunity, you're ready to go. If you're presented with opportunity and you're unprepared, it's not gonna happen. So I'd rather spend a limited time from work, martial arts, and just doing other things with the kids. Anytime I have, I just try to be prepared, you know, working on music. Ideas are, my mind is still fresh with ideas. You know, I don't even listen to what's on the radio whatsoever. I stay in my own little world. But I have a crew of producers that I work with. So, you know, these younger guys, some are younger, some, you know, my age, but they're totally in tune, battle type producers and things like that. You know, we all stay in contact. So I know what's fresh. I know what's going on. So I just stay in Butcher's world, and that's it. You know, when things come, I'm ready, and opportunities are presenting themselves, you know, so when God wants to pull me back in, I'm ready to go. I'm not going to fight it. Like you said, there's more wisdom to it. I understand the game. And then recently I saw hip hop, Jay-Z's right-hand man, you know, who runs the labels and things like that. He was giving me a big up, you know, and when you see stuff like that at this point in time that happened 20 years ago, touring with these guys, and they say good things about you like that, you're like, wow, that's God speaking to me that the doors are still open, you know, in a big way, a major way, you know, so I'm ready.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
Exactly. There you go. I love that.
Well, I appreciate you to the highest. Thank you for spending time with us and pulling all of this journey together to help us better understand who you are as an artist, as a mentor, as a father, as a leader, and just keep on keeping on. We can't wait for whatever unfolds with this next chapter.
Thank you, Natalie. Yeah, people like you support me and inspire me.